It's an elbow.
All right, good morning and welcome Commissioners Court, regular session, September 23rd. Full quorum is present. Carrie, you certify the meeting was properly posted.
Yes, sir.
You'll please rise for prayer and pledges.
Oh.
Our Father, we humbly bow before you this morning, asking for your presence in this courtroom to guard the minds and the thoughts of the commissioners and the judge. Lord, we just pray for strength for them. We pray for strength for all the county employees. Father, we just lift up every department to you, so we may perform business according to your will. Father, today's Bible verse that I want to quote is found in Luke chapter 12, verse 40. The King James says, "Be ye therefore ready also, for the Son of Man cometh at an hour when ye think not." Father, we know that you have a timeline in this existence of this world, and we feel like it's coming pretty soon. And those of us that are Christians are hoping it's coming pretty soon, but we don't know when. And as Jesus said, we don't know the hour, and that he's coming when we think not. Father, lead us and guide us today, and may that be on our heart. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas law.
Texas, one state,
state,
under God, one.
I didn't receive any citizens input. We have any?
No.
And consent agenda contains 27 items.
Like to pull number 6. And make the motion to approve the consent agenda, removing number 6.
Second.
Moving single, all in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Number 6, approve facility request 2024-102, allowing Safe House to tie purple ribbons around the courthouse trees during the month of October for domestic violence awareness.
But we have a couple people from the Safe House here. I'd like to give them the floor for a couple of minutes if we could.
Yes, ma'am. Come on up, Tammy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So Safe House colors are purple and teal, and those represent domestic violence and sexual assault awareness colors. So October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and that color is purple, and we work to educate and make aware of the different that we can provide if we think about and get involved in domestic violence awareness. So it's asking you guys to let us paint the town purple and put the ribbons up around the trees. When people ask why they're there, we can let them know that it is for domestic violence awareness.
Sounds good. Appreciate what y'all do. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll make the motion to approve agenda item number 6 as presented.
Second. Moving second, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank
Motion, thank you. All right, number 28, discuss and take action on contract with Tyler Technology regarding this distributor agreement for card insurance. Zabala?
Tell me about surprise.
It's fast, wasn't it?
What I'm asking for is permission for us to switch from writing checks to inmates when they're released to issuing debit. And it's the company name is Rapid Financial Systems. It's owned by Tyler Technology. And we've got a kiosk in the jail now where when prisoners come in, we can put their money into it's like an ATM machine. Put their money in the machine. That's from Tiger Commissary. When those people are released, they'll pull that money out and they'll make a deposit once a week. But when they're released, a debit card will be issued to them instead of a check. A MasterCard debit card. And I'm told it'll make life easier.
So y'all have them on file, John, and they just issue them out, or I guess you know ahead of time.
We'll
when they're
have
gonna issue.
blank cards and
Yeah.
they can fill them out to the amount that the prisoner has to get.
Yeah, I mean, do y'all actually put that on there? You got, this company's doing it for you.
No, we do.
You do it? Okay. Sounds good to me. Make a motion to approve.
Cheryl, you got anything on that?
I have sat in the meetings with them and discussed several different options and such, but yes, I agree with this. It's gonna cut down on having somebody come in on the weekends when they're released Saturday or Sunday at god awful hours. It's gonna cut down on the personnel, and yes, it will be much easier, and effective.
Moving second, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion
Thank you.
carries.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. 29, discuss and take action on TCDRS rate for plan year 2025. Amy?
Morning, Amy.
So this is our renewal for the retirement system effective January 1st. Our current rate is 14.67%. So the new rate for next year would be 14.2. In years past, we always do the 40% CPI COLA for the retirees. So that's gonna be my recommendation. So it would make it 14.53%, which is still below the current 14.67 that we are budgeting at.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion, we accept the TCDRS rate for 2025.
I'll second that.
Moving second, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. 30, discuss and take action on county choice silver renewal plan 2025.
That we do have the retirees. This year it is the insurance part is a 0% increase. I don't think I've ever told y'all that before. So it's not going up at all. The prescription is gonna go up 2.28%. So it is roughly $6.24 a month that it would go up. And at present, we have 32 retirees that are on this plan.
Sounds good. Have any questions? Make a motion to approve.
So,
Moving second, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. 31, discuss and take action on Walker County 2025 workers' compensation renewal questionnaire.
This is the annual questionnaire that we do, where I go in and tell them the estimated cost. They base our rates on that, and then in February of the following year, we go back and do the actual. They do the comparison, and usually is when we get our refund, where, because this, I do everything, all, even unbudgeted or budgeted positions that are vacant. So we always get the refund based on that amount, since we don't spend all that.
So we're just accepting the questionnaire.
Yes, sir. Because like they ask the questions, like if we own, if we man aircraft and we don't, so we skip that section. We don't have the vessels, so we skip that. So I just do the part where the list, the county, the employees and the amount that we're gonna spend,
Okay.
or that we estimate we're gonna spend.
Make a motion to accept 31.
I'll second that.
Moving second, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Purchasing, number 32, discuss and take action on courthouse flyer bed drainage mitigation.
Good morning.
Morning.
So if you recall, we did a bid for, to fix the drainage problem. I guess, I don't know if that, flower bed. And we got the vendors to come out and look at it. But our engineers had suggested that we put concrete on it to seal it up, to direct the water that comes in away from the building. So we got the bids. We were going to award it. And then we were tasked with going back to the engineer and making sure that the bids that we received were adequate enough and met all state regulations. And we finally got the response back from the engineer stating that the bids that we received for the railing from Woods and that the concrete work from Aaron's were both acceptable. And so I'm here to ask for you guys to approve the award of the I guess repairs to both vendors.
It's been a while, so you think their bids are still,
We
have you talked
contacted,
to them?
yes, sir, we contacted both vendors when I received the letter, we vote, and they said, yes, that it's still good.
Okay.
The vendors is Woods, Welding and, Barron's Construction. Barron's.
Barone's Construction.
And I'm assuming that Barone has looked at the recommendations from GLS.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the bids, separating them with Woods Welding. What's his price was? $39.90, is that correct? And then Barone's,
Was 20, hold on.
it's 28.5. Does that take out the other part of?
Yes, sir.
Well,
I don't know if that's right, because I mean, he was bidding on part of it.
No.
You gotta take out the $39.90
Well,
off.
the
off of
28.5 was the whole length, the whole length.
That, the whole length of
Here's
13.5 is just. the same.
Next
Yeah,
page is
you
his
gotta take
handrail.
out- Yeah, the next, one more, that's the deal, so.
Yeah.
That's his handrail
28.5.
price. 13.5 was for the center section.
Yeah,
28.5 was for the whole length.
We're doing the whole week, huh?
Okay.
So what's the dollar?
28.5.
28.5,
Yes, sir.
28.5 Barone's Construction,
28.5 and then 39.
90 for Woods Welding.
Yes.
On Barone's, if you look up here, it says 5,400 on Barone's.
That's the handrail.
That's the railing.
Okay,
That's the railing. And we're not doing that.
okay, so it's
Second.
13.5.
Yeah,
No.
moved in second.
28.5 on loan. It's 28.5 for Barone's
Right, 13.9.
and 30.
39.90,
3,990.
Yes.
right?
Yes,
That's it.
that's it. All right, I got a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand.
I didn't.
Okay, good.
Motion carries. 33, discuss and take action on county clerk request regarding Work County Personnel Policy 3.028.
So our policy on rehire after retirement states 180 days with a true separation. But that's number one. Number three is the ECRS only requires 1 month. So in my office, we're doing back preservation work. And Ms. Lee had retired in June. We were gonna try to work on some of that, but now I'm finding that we're gonna need some more help to get the back indexes completed. The problem is a lot of people don't or can't read the old calligraphy and cursive from way back when. And we're still working on those indexes. Our records from 1846 to 1960 are imaged, they're not indexed. So we have to digitize that index to match with our images. The OCR won't read the old handwriting, so we have to do it by hand. And I have a part-time position that I can make temporary part-time, and I'm trying to see if y'all would allow me to allow Lee to come back part-time, no benefits, 3 days a week to assist us with getting those indexes completed.
How far is she off on her 180 days?
She retired June 28th, so she would be right at 3 months. It would be another 3 months for her 80 days. So that's why I was trying to pull her back in now.
Did you post position and not get?
I have it ready to post. I've talked to Tina about it. I just felt, because I called Lee and talked to her, because she had been doing that project. And it's very time consuming and meticulous. And with bringing her back, I wouldn't have to try to train somebody on that process. And it's going to be a temporary position. So once that index is done, then it goes back to an open part-time position.
Temporary part-time.
It's until that project is done. Because she wants to be retired, so it's
So basically, you're hiring a temporary employee,
through my part-time position.
so you're part-time position.
And that's through records preservation, so that's not on the county budget either. Pay for that.
I think the fact that it doesn't have any benefits kind of gives me a little bit of, whoop, timeout, go ahead.
Perhaps a cleaner approach to this would be to authorize her to create a temporary position and use the funding from the part-time position to pay.
Yeah,
With no
Well,
benefits.
it's kind of going through some of the details and minutia there, but I think that's cleaner than
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
And by doing that, because if you're gonna use the part-time position, you got a 3-day posting and you just basically told us you offered the job and you haven't posted it, that's a problem. So if you created a temporary position that she brought that person in, I think you might be a little bit firmer ground.
you bring it back to us as temporary.
So we're gonna pass on 33 and he'll come back.
I'm back. Okay.
Like when,
All right, 34, discuss and take action on facility request 2024-101, allowing Huntsville High School Baseball Booster Club to use DA parking lot on October 5th, 2024 during the fair on the square.
can they use it for fundraising?
Thing is, a couple of weeks ago with the wrestling, it's been hand in hand for
I
about.
use it as a fundraiser, yes.
Yeah, but you know, I still have my same issues that y'all won't allow my farmers to do much of nothing, so I vote against it every time.
So that's my motion.
So,
Oh.
hold on, Will.
Yeah.
So this is a little different though. What are they, they're actually just a fundraiser.
Well, this is.
They're
the
not
same
selling
thing.
parking.
They are.
Yeah,
They are. They charge like $5 or $10 to park in our parking lot, and wrestling does too.
Yeah.
And they share that whole.
And what is this for then?
It just goes to the booster club for Huntsville High School.
It's a fundraiser.
But what function is it at?
during the fair on the square.
Fair on the square?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Same thing as the wrestling y'all voted on.
I got a motion.
I'll second it.
I can't help you with this one
That's okay. Moving second, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed.
until you get my farmers
That's fine.
involved.
Motion carries.
It is what it is.
35, discuss and take action on lease agreement between New Waverly ISD and Walker County for property located at 9592 State Highway 75 South.
So this is about 15 acres at 85-90 for the release agreement, similar to Ronnie does out there on 30. Stack our stuff on
Good to me.
to approve the real estate lease agreement.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. 36, discuss and take action on funding agreement between Boys and Girls Club and Walker County. That's my motion. It's just our budgeted funds.
I'll second that.
Moving second, all in favor, raise your right hands. Motion carries. 37, discuss and take action on funding agreement between Senior Center and Walker County. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Moving second, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. 38, discuss and take action on funding agreement between Rita B. Huff and Walker County. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Moving seconded, all in favor, raise your right hand. Carries. 39, discuss and take action on Walker County Appraisal District Board of Directors appointment nominations. Does anybody have any nominations? Y'all got that email from
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stacy?
I was a little confused on the length of the terms, if we're supposed
We get to pick them.
we pick the terms. And so we don't have any new members other than the ones, Lucy, we scroll down to the shows the members. Nominations, there you go. So if we say these 5 of the 7, is that right? 7, yeah, these 5 of the 7 are fine. And we want X and Y to be 1 year. That would be how we would do it.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So,
Yeah, but it all comes into a grand scheme with schools going out and vote us anyway.
Yeah, they're gonna,
so-
yeah,
They get over.
they have 57% of the votes anyways. So it
They
doesn't
can do
matter. But if y'all really want somebody, you put all your votes on them. You don't have to divide them evenly. You can pick 2 people and vote for 2.
Yeah.
So,
I think the 5 you got, I don't know one of them, but the rest of them are 5.
Which one don't you know, Dan?
The Owens.
Ed,
You don't know?
Ed, Ed Reese.
Mr. Ed,
Oh, yeah.
that's her son.
Okay, that's who it is? Okay.
Yeah, he's school teacher bunch.
Yeah, all right.
Reese's.
I'm surprised you don't know him.
Yeah, all right. Well, I wasn't for sure.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's A+. I'll go along with Ed.
So we're gonna
He's
put,
like his daddy was.
Yeah, okay.
put Jody, Jack Dean, Otis Elephant, Ed Owens, and David Stanley in there.
If that's your recommendation,
Then you have to pick the,
and then we gotta pick 1 or 3 years.
I mean, 1 year and how many do we
Two.
do? 3.
2 1 year, 3 3s.
And do 1
That
years
was
and
something.
3.
Yeah, that's, I'm looking at the top 2 for 1, the bottom 3 for 3.
Well, that'd be my motion. Nominate Jody Crawford, Jack Dean for 1 year positions and Otis Oliphant, Ed Owens, David Stanley for 3 year positions.
I'll second that.
2 seconds.
We're gonna divide up the votes evenly, right?
Yes.
Yes. And I got a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Number 40, discuss and take action on proposal for landscaping at the Sam Houston 13th Street corner of the annex to be completed by Cactus Jack. He's not here.
I don't have any backup on it.
Yeah, I don't either. So they're doing the, I'm gonna explain it to you, but I'm gonna pass until it gets here. They're doing the square down at the annex, that corner at that light, like the square up here. with the
That donut wheel.
The cactus and all, and we're the only corner that's not participating so far. But the holdup is he's getting some kind of totem pole built and wants to put the totem pole on the corner. So I really want to see pictures of all this before we vote on it.
Yeah.
So,
And I really like our grass there too.
yeah,
I like our pretty grass.
so we're gonna pass, Cactus got invited, so
Where funding coming from?
they were supposed to be here to explain all that.
He was down there working when I come in this morning. Yeah.
That donut
So
wheel.
it is no charge on us.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we're gonna pass on 40. 41, discuss and take action on the agreement for the improvement and lease of parking, or improvement and lease of parking area in precinct 2.
Yeah, that's mine. Well, this is very similar to what Brandon did just a few minutes ago. He actually pulled this one to kind of get his situated, but ours has been expired for a while, and we did not know that till you actually pulled it. So we need to renew the one with Miss Rhonda. We park our equipment out there at her place, which gives us the authority to park on her place, basically. And we pay her, I think, $10 a month to use it. Is that right? So
Yes, sir.
it's gonna be for one year contract or 4 renewals. Is that correct? Alan? Same as we did last time, but my motion is to approve it.
Second.
So,
Moved and seconded, all in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. 42, discuss and take action on authorizing the transfer of $6,000 to the fund, the extension of employment for the part-time employee in precinct.
We added this guy at the beginning of summer and we just been destroyed with the grass. It's been going like crazy. And with the FEMA stuff, we've used him for traffic control and stuff like that. So I'd like to hang on to him through like mid-November to help us finish up. So it's gonna come out of my fund. So my motion is to approve agenda item number 42.
so
Moved and seconded, all in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. 43, discuss and take action on to purchase 2019 Great All XL 3100 4x2 Series 5 from Associated Supply Company Incorporated in the amount of $233,613.62 under buy board contract number 685-22.
How you paying for it, Brandon, all at once or?
I'm gonna pay for it all at once. We didn't get to pay this year. I'm gonna use my paving funds to purchase this, and then whenever we get our FEMA reimbursement, I'll put that back in my paving funds.
Okay.
My motion's going to be to purchase this
I'll second.
as presented.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. 44, discuss and take action on plat number 2022-015, Kayla Renee Jozak, Widget, there you go, 30.32 acre tract, Jose Maria de la Garza survey. Andrew?
Eddie, before we crank up, would you kind of give us a history? This was here in 2022. Kind of tell us what we did in 2022. I thought so.
They got variances previously, if you go up to the drawing. Before I was here, and then I was here, and now we're a year later, here we are.
Is that one you want me to?
Keep going. Actual plat, so there we go.
There you go.
So there was a previous outtrack under an exception to the family member, that's the. That's it, you don't hear outtrack in the middle. That was done under family grant. Or they came back sold this piece in the back. On a plat. Came back in, got a variance from commission to allow for an easement access to this tract in the back. Then they've been working with their surveyor on getting this revised plat prepared, showing everything the way it was approved with all the variants. Like, been through several iterations, I'll say. And so now they're actually before court to get it approved. So the easement access to this piece in the back that was approved on the session. This was granted under exception under the family grants rule. And so I know it's a little confusing. So this lot right here, this middle lot 1, actually is like a donut around 3. So this land from this property line to that property line, it's the lot 1. B is an out tract. And then this tract in the back is served by, as approved in a variance previously by Commissioner.
Okay, the only question, I thought about this and looked this weekend, the only question I have, and I may be on the wrong one. But. Remember the Buckner tract? Somewhere here, there's 2, maybe down here.
Right, there's 2 Wojcik tracts. But nothing about this plat affects any of this.
So is it the other one that's got that right away? That's on the.
This one doesn't, this one shows, if you look, it's got a 50-foot access and utilities here by the plat. And then 60-foot access up here by plat. It doesn't reference an underlying easement, but there might be one.
That might be on that other one.
If there's an easement that's not filed on record, somebody has a prescriptive easement or something like that, it doesn't necessarily replace the plat. But if there's in other words, if there's an existing adjoining agreement with somebody to access, it wouldn't necessarily be plat. Because we don't regulate easements. Access easements. So there are people that may have an access easement that I don't have any document record of.
So it'll stay in place.
This doesn't, we're not taking any action that would affect any existing, rights that people have.
Okay.
So on that map right there, which easement, I see on that first track, there's like 4 50-foot easements on there.
So there's a access easement here that was already recorded.
Yeah.
There's an access easement here that was already recorded. They're just being reflected on the plat.
Right.
But the underlying property for all of that belongs to lot 1.
Are you comfortable with this?
Well, I mean, we granted the easement, we granted all the variants on it at previous sessions. All we're doing now is getting the paperwork filed.
All right.
So, and
That's
also,
how to put it.
also on this, so this track is divided out, right? No more, because in E4 down here, it says if it's not granted, then it's gonna be, it would be no longer be able to subdivide the property.
You won't be able to subdivide anymore. That was kind of spooky.
Yeah,
Okay.
well,
So we're done either way, as
they're
far as dividing.
out of frontage
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
here.
Yeah, they got no way.
If they wanted to divide it further, they would have to come back before this court
Under a different one.
as a replat.
Yeah.
Because now it would be a platted subdivision.
Well, when they put that in there, it kind of concerned me anyhow.
Yeah, I think that was based on whenever they got the variance for the previous 50-foot access easement, because this had been sold prior to coming to for a plat. When the court granted this variance, there was some mention made in that session of it. This is it.
Yeah, okay,
All right, move to approve as presented.
second.
Moving second, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. 45, discuss and take action on acceptance of the roads and associated infrastructure within the public right of way shown on plat of Texas Grand Ranch, section 15, as filed in volume 7, page 62 of the Walker County plat records for public maintenance.
Morning.
Bill, state your name for Ms. French.
Jesse McClory with Spear Point Engineering.
Okay, so this is for acceptance of the roads and the drainage infrastructure, serving those roads right away. The guys have a copy of sort of our punch list, and then we have a revised response. The punch list is still lists a few items, looks like this.
I don't think I got that.
Here, this is separate.
Yeah, it was a back.
Yeah, I don't
Look
know.
at-
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get that one.
Came-
I drove out there
It came
over the
before all
weekend
this discussion.
and looked at them, and I don't see any major, the pictures don't do no
Right.
justice for it because they're very minor washes,
Oh, okay.
you know, so, but the reality of it is, I mean, I seen everything that they fixed, looked good to me. I didn't see any issues with
Okay.
it. Had one little outstanding issue with the resident, but the contractor took care of that this morning.
So for our,
Had nothing to do with y'all, but
for our departmental paperwork sake, we would request, with the approval, if approval is made today, to accept the roads, be conditioned upon, us getting the updated certificate. That we requested in this letter, the paperwork part of this letter, not necessarily the fixing the items. But listed, under number 7 and number 11, yes. And that would also include the developer's agent signing the final development cert, that we would issue after we get those documents. It's just a signature required. So those 3 contingencies.
Okay.
Those are paperwork, not fixing things on the ground.
I'm probably trying to leave those on this morning.
oh, it's all been fixed. Then, you know, then do them little sticks up on top of that bridge. Ain't going nowhere. I'll make a motion to approve with the contingencies that Andy added to it.
That is 7 and 11 here, plus the developer finalizing the development permit.
That's all they got left, right?
I'll second that.
Moving second, all in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thank you. 46, discuss and take action on acceptance of roads and associated infrastructure within the public right of way shown on the plat of Timberwild subdivision. The reserve, section 2, as filed in volume 6, page 151 of the Walker County Plat Records for public maintenance.
This is Timberwild, and Andy's getting this stuff there, I'm assuming, but, Mr. Bias has fixed everything I've asked him to fix. He's done the, I'm drawing a blank on the crack ceiling. He's done that, and he's fixed all the ditch lines, he's done all the drainage issues that we had throughout the, entire project. So everything in the field that I've asked, he's fixed it. So I'm good with the field, and we'll talk about the other that Andy brings up.
Yeah, so you similarly have the final time we did a walkthrough. Now Ronnie's looked at it since.
Yeah, Bill went with me out there.
So I think Bill looked at it since this list. Again, I remind the court, as with TJR 15, this section was developed and inspected by the city of Huntsville and ETJ. We're looking at it, we weren't the party having jurisdiction over the development as it developed. So we looked at it after the fact. They just handed me, similar to what TGR did, some of these documents. But I would still request the contingent upon, just like I did with TGR. So the updated development certification form and federal, state, local permitting certification, which they just handed me a copy of. The as-built plan sets noted earlier. We just noted that on the as-built plan sets that we have, which are the same as-built plan sets I believe that the city of Huntsville has, some of the items on the plan set aren't reflected in what's on the ground.
Right.
If we want to require those to be updated or it doesn't, that's the court's.
Is that basically all that's left, Andy? I mean, that's it.
And then signed final approval of infrastructure, city of Huntsville, we got a copy of that. And release from the site. They file an NOI when they start, they get an NOT when they finish that says that they're done with the establishment.
You got that, right? No?
That's it. Contingent on those paperwork. And then of course him signing the final development permit that we would generate once we get these documents.
All right, Ms. Bias, you want to talk about the paperwork with the city.
This project was completed and approved by the city of Huntsville a little over 5 years ago, and their home's been built there, and there's been significant tax revenue generated from this project for quite a long time. Recently, I spent a significant amount of money doing deferred maintenance on the road that I felt was in excess of my duty and responsibility. It's extraordinarily difficult in this county, in the ETJ, to do business. And I wouldn't recommend anybody to take up a project in the ETJ of Huntsville, Texas, because of the tremendous amount of risk and exposure I've suffered for the last 5 years. Potential lawsuits from the homeowners who didn't understand that there was a massive dysfunction between the city and the county. I've been exposed to millions of dollars worth of liability. And so therefore, I ask you, notwithstanding any other paperwork that hadn't been completed or any other agreements between the city and the county that have not been performed by either party, to approve this plat and set me free. I believe that this is not inequitable and not good for the county, for a person who invests and risks their money to be left in this position for this period of time. So I've done everything I'm going to do. I'm not responsible, nor can I make the city perform, nor can I make this county perform. I've done everything within my power to do the right thing here, and I'm asking for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Bice. So, but basically what the city signed off on it, right? I mean, that's what we've got.
We got that.
And if we can't work something out with the city eventually, I mean, I'm kind of with Mr. Bice. I don't know why anybody won't do shit in the ETJ.
I do understand that,
Yeah.
but in the grand scheme of things too, there's lots of stuff that's in here. I did go look, that's not built to the plans. And so it's a little bit of fault on both sides, I would say. I'll go along with whatever Ronnie wants to do, but in the same sense, you've got a set of plans out there, and if something's not right, it's supposed to be reflected on the plans, stamped by the engineer. And regardless if the city inspects it or not, it's still the taxpayer, it's ours when it's over. And they're the ones that's gonna have to pay for the discrepancies, not anybody else.
Yeah, of course, the main thing that's really not on the plans out there as built would be the slopes on it. And that's coming in as you come in, so, and it's pretty deep in there. The city should have caught it, and dealt with developer at the time.
There's also a comment in here that everything was done with HDPE instead of RCP.
So there's a note on that. When I received the copy of the city's development, where they certified that there is a note with the PE's number on that says that they swapped out HDPE for
Concrete.
The concrete culverts. It's not reflected on the plans, but there is a note that was added to that.
So
As an
the city okayed it, I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah, the PE added a note to that form that said that we changed these out.
And it was reflected as an ad built in.
Yeah, it was reflected on this when the city approved it. It wasn't reflected in the final plan set that we have a copy of. There was the change in the ditch slopes and some of those other things. Again, I have it on our list because it's my job to put it on the list. You guys don't want the plans to be updated to match what's on the ground. If they're good enough for what we're at, we do need the updated development certification form, and state, which he just handed me, will review, and then a final signature on the development permit. We definitely need that for compliance with our FEMA. And then the release from TCEQ stormwater permit, we always request those because we want to make sure that they're done with seeding and establishing grass and all that kind of stuff. Now, we'll grant this is an old project. If you think that we're in good shape there as far as the grass growth out there and that kind of stuff and don't want the document, that would be your call. We don't really have a copy in the file.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I don't have to have that to finalize my.
Yeah, I mean, so what is it that we have to have? I mean, what is,
I need what he just handed me, but I haven't had a chance to review, but they handed me, I kind of get a quick look over, but I'd hate to do something in the 5 seconds since I've gotten it.
what did he hand you?
He handed me the updated development certification form and the federal, state, and local permitting certification, the first thing that we'd asked for. And then following that, assuming those are good, he would just need to sign as the developer, would need to sign the final permit that we issued. We usually do a temporary final because this permit was requested post-construction. We'll go straight to final and there'll be no temporary.
I'm just curious. I mean, when the ETJ, I guess you need to help clear something up with me. When they're working in under the city, why do they need our permit?
For the floodplain.
For the
Because
flood.
city's jurisdiction on floodplain management and its limits. Their jurisdiction on subdivision policy extends out beyond.
Okay, so it's the floodplain that needs to be signed off on.
For floodplain regulations, this is not really related to the infrastructure, it's the floodplain regulations, but we're permitting the infrastructure. From a floodplain standpoint, not from a subdivision regulations.
I think Mr. Ben.
Mr. Ben?
Well, and I agree with what he's saying. There are two separate issues here, compliance with the floodplain or the public roads and infrastructure that were built. Two should not be commingled. Because the city, I built the property according to the standards that were in existence at the time. And according to your interlocal agreement, those approvals were delegated to the city of Huntsville. That I had to comply with, design and build according to the development code of the city of Huntsville. In the record, the city of Huntsville approved and accepted these roads and attendant infrastructure and gave me a completion letter, which y'all have in record. Is that correct?
You do have it now, right, Andy? Okay.
Therefore, my duty as far as development of infrastructure was complete. Much of the delay has been caused by the confusion of whether we had complied with the floodplain, whatever you want to call it. Because some of the property was adjacent to the floodplain. But the infrastructure is complete, and I think that's what you're here to rule on is, was this done in accordance and are these adequate and complete city, county roads acceptable to the county? And as a developer, I complied with whom I was told I had to make happy, which was the city of Huntsville. And we did that. And so I'm asking you, once again, you can accept the infrastructure and the county roads in completion, in totality today. Because we did comply with the regulations that we fell under at the time.
The city, and we can't control what the city does.
How do we get out of this
What might be-
ETJ, Bill?
Well,
It
my opinion of this was the city should have notified that our jurisdiction only exceeds to the city limits. So we can't authorize your floodplain. So if you're gonna build, and it's obvious you're in the floodplain, if you're gonna do that, you gotta get the county to sign off on that. That's come from the city. If somebody's in the ETJ, I don't expect them to knock on the door on our county and say, hey, I'm at the city, everything's good, is everything good with you? Because we defer to the city. That's inside the ETJ, we make them the primary, they regulate everything inside the ETJ. So at some point, they should say, hey, you jumped outside the city limits, this floodplain's in the county. And you need to get them to sign off on that, or better yet, hey, let us take a look at that and maybe we can shoot it over there and get that fixed for you and get it back. So he's in a spot that we find ourselves in less now than we used to, because we increased the quality of our development in the county to get away from conflicts. But his, if it's 5 years old, was before we did that. So we can't tell Andy to not get a piece of paper that he feels like FEMA's going to want him to have. We can't tell him that.
My concern would be the court adopting those amendments that are not permitted under the federal.
That's what I'm saying. We can't ask him to
So
do that.
if he gets the paperwork submitted to complete the permit, which he's given me copies of, I just haven't had a chance to review it.
Yeah.
And then signs the final piece of paper.
So you got the document basically, right? You just need to review it.
Right. They just handed them to me.
Okay.
I'll write that down.
So if we go ahead and take the roads contingent on your,
Contingent upon the final permit being issued and that paperwork being reviewed, I have no objection to whatever the court wants to do. I've already put everything else.
Yeah.
I've done a review, we provided a report, we've given you guys all the information.
Yeah.
My job is to make sure you guys are doing everything eyes wide open.
well, you know, this just, he just pointed out, we're gonna be dealing with this ETJ maybe in a few minutes, but we gotta do something with this ETJ. This is a common problem. It is not as common as you said before, it used to be, but
Yeah.
we put these guys that develop in a situation between the county and the city.
Absolutely.
And, you know, everybody on the outside wants to say we got a good relationship. I disagree with them. I think it sucks, but that's my personal opinion. So we need to fix that to the point that we're getting along with the city and we cooperate with them. And we know what they're doing. They know what we're doing. I don't know how we're gonna get there. I'm probably not the right guy to put on that committee because
Don't worry, I wasn't gonna put you on.
but you know what I heard, but no, I mean, I'd like to move forward with this if we can. This has been going on long enough. He's fixed everything I've asked him to do.
If the court doesn't see a need to require that the plans that were already accepted as built by the city be updated, or the TC stormwater permit, the copy is given to us. That's okay. I mean, that's your prerogative. I would caution you to accept roads that don't have a final permit, under FEMA, because we require that permitting in all the development that occurs in the county.
No, the federal one that you're talking about, I mean, that's something that you probably need.
I'm actually asking for almost identical thing on this one that we just asked for.
Yeah.
Essentially, that we would get the paperwork, review it, and then
Well, that'd be my motion right there.
Took us
To approve,
to approve under,
contingent with review.
some submittal of the development certification form, federal state permitting, which they've already done. So it's a review of that,
Review that,
and
And
then
then
them signing the final.
final signature.
I'll second that.
all right, moved second, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries. 47. Discuss and take action on Four Star Real Estate Group, Inc. Request for variance to section B12 of the Walker County subdivision regulations regarding drainage, detention, and mass grading for plat number 2022-037 Peach Creek Forest.
Good morning.
Hi, Walker Burgess, Elevation Land Solutions, the engineer for the Peach Creek Forest Development. If y'all recall, we were here 2 courts ago, we talked primarily about access into the development and the lot frontage. There were some comments from court, we're just those back now. So I will say, first of all, too, the minimum lot frontage, we talked to the developer on this, we're gonna just leave that one out. We're not gonna pursue that anymore and just lose those lots, no big deal. So that one is gone. And the 3 variances that we're talking about today, one is basically a resubmittal of the variance that was already approved under Chris Wren, talking about access spacing. Board had recommended that we bring that one back now in Four Star's name, and we add timing into it as well. We're talking about splitting the entrances. I'll explain that in detail. The second variance talks about that blue area, section 1, how we do second point of access, our phase 1 condition. And the third variance has to do with the master drainage impact analysis and detention mass grading. And that is coming up due to site topography. It's just a quick reminder from last time. The primary driver for all 3 of these variances, north to south, and what we're calling phase 2, there's a big hill. And we try to bring flow from the east to the west side. We're cutting 20 feet through that hill. We can't lose all that excavation in phase 2. It's got to go to phase 3. So that prevents us from connecting those access roads day 1. And then it forces us, as soon as we get into the yellow area, phase 2, we're doing a development-wide detention mass grading project. So we'll go in order. 47, I believe, is detention mass grading and DIA, which I guess is probably the most complicated one. But in most jurisdictions I've worked in, usually the reason why we seeking a variance is a DIA and detention mass grading are usually separate from the plat submittal. So it makes it a little bit easier, because here when we have a detention mass grading plan that's sections 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, the rules would imply that then we'd have to submit water, sewer drainage and pavement plans for all those sections too, since it touches all those different plat boundaries. We've been talking to Andy about how do we actually do this under the current Walker County rules and regs under a plat submittal. And so what we're proposing to do is full development DIA, full development section 1 and pond 1 detention mass grading submitted with the section 2 plat submittal. And what we would do is we would just basically burn a review. The first review is just to review those 2 documents, no water, sewer, drainage, or pavement plans. And then we would provide an additional plat fee that would be, it's in the, we're stripping out the plat submittal fee. We would say the $125 an acre for everything besides section 2. This comes out to about $18,000. That would allow Andy to review the DIA detention mass grading, not just for section 2, but for the remainder of the development.
So I'll stop you for just a second.
Sure.
I just want to make sure we're clear on this. Your theoretical plan of development would be section 1 first.
Section 1 first.
Then are you gonna do section 2 next? Or are you gonna do section 3 or 4?
So.
Yeah, and I want you to clarify section or phase.
Sure. So section 1 is what we're calling phase 1. That's section 1 and pond 1. We're keeping those together because of dirt balances. So it's a good first section. The next phase is phase 2, but how we would construct it is section 3 first with that tie-in, because we need, as we talked about in last court, the next phase of construction, home construction, has to connect this road day 1. So we have that second point of access. So we would do section 3 plus this road. And then we could also either build section 4 plus the roadway or just the roadway extension. That's really up to 4-Star's pro forma. Regardless, the next phase of home construction would be 3 in the entrance plus that road all the way to the west collector. So that we get that second point of access, we get the next phase of development.
So you're looking at probably order being section 1, section 3, then coming back for section 4, and then doing section 2.
Yeah, straight forward.
You want this application to be timed? 3 application? 3.
I know you and I just talked about too. For us, it really doesn't.
Well, it's my presumption.
Yeah. It's fine.
I just want to get clarity on that.
Sure. Anything else? Okay. All right, so, I mean, a master DIA is basically what gives the developer confidence that your land plan is not going to change. You invest all this money. How do we make sure that things are going to remain how they are? So approving a master DIA, then is how you would review a master detention mass grading plan. Really, your water, sewer, drainage, and pavement don't have any impact on your detention. That's just the governing document of the DIA. So, we would recommend too that the DIA, once approved, would remain approved for 8 years, which is the proposed life of development for this one, and remain approved under the current rules and regulations at the time of approval.
Now,
Sure.
we got 8 years in here. If we give one of the variants before to Chris Wren at 8-year mark to it, are we resetting the clock or is that something different?
This is a totally new variance. Chris Wren's didn't reference detention mass grading or DIA. That was a plat assignment.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we got the document from Andy. So the next couple of weeks, you'll see the new plat information change to 4-Star.
Okay.
So the pros of this though, I mean, when you think about this, after phase 1, the next step we do is we establish all the detention for your development. So that, the next reviews that Andrew is doing, whether you do 3, 4, then 6 and 5, it doesn't really matter. All your detention is there day 1. You're over detaining, you got sufficient storage. Worst comes to worst, let's say 4-Star leaves. If there was another developer, engineer that came in, you already have your ponds established. So it makes it a lot simpler for that transition too. Really, the only downside I see is when you open this much land, there's a lot more chance of erosion problems, right? Now, we've got mud number 1 here, and so the mud fully owns erosion problems. We would be the mud engineer, so it only serves us well to design this right day 1. But that doesn't ever come back to the county. That's all on the mud. If 4-Star leaves, the mud stays in place.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're recommending.
All right, so what we talked about on this letter from GLS is each phase must have a standalone bond in place for the construction cost.
Yeah, we haven't
read
read
any
no,
of
this
this
is comments
the
yet.
GLS's report?
We have not seen it yet. See, so each phase.
Page 3 or 4.
On that one. Okay, phase must stand alone, have a bond in place for all the construction costs. I mean, I don't understand that one.
When the construction takes place for
Oh,
each section.
sure, sure.
that you'll have a standalone bond.
Absolutely. When we get to the section themselves, then we will follow all the plat rules and regs for sure.
Okay. A maintenance plan must be provided by owner detailing how the MUD will maintain all drainage infrastructure between phases.
MUDs will always have a drainage plan, a maintenance
We
plan.
need that plan.
Okay,
Yeah, our concern is if you begin doing the mass grading
okay.
and then stop
Mhm.
with it half done. Who's going to put that into a shape that is not going to impact adjoining owners or related properties? It's not going to step in at that point.
I mean, yeah, the MUD has to. It's in their boundaries.
So we need you to address that to us so that we don't have, I know that you have no fear this is gonna
Sure.
but if you start development, you cut the hilltop off,
Right.
change the drainage to the
Mhm.
area, increase the sediment and silt into the adjoining. And then nobody is finishing.
Yeah.
Right?
We can do
Nobody
a
comes
bond.
in and does remediation and make sure the grass is planted back and all that. You just disappear.
Sure.
Then we want to make sure who's going to step in and make sure that's all taken care of because it's not going to be us.
So, okay, I mean, that's fine, and that's what the bond would cover too, when we submit this, the bond to cover the construction costs. Which would then be maintained regardless by, I mean, that's the fail safe.
Yeah, but the bond is not gonna cover in phase one what the damage would be.
So is your intent to, when you apply for the section 3
Mhm.
and get the DIA approved,
Mhm.
that you're going to bond everything in the
We would
DIA?
bond everything that would be, yes, in the detention mass grading plan for the rest of the development, because we would be constructing that next. So you're not having to hold that bond for 10 years, it's
And
1
then
year.
failing the bond, then the MUD.
Correct.
Okay.
Provide the county with a timeline indicating what order the sections will be constructed, along with proposed construction timeline for each section.
Yeah, we could easily do that. When they didn't provide us these comments on the front end, or I would have come with it all, but
That's
yeah,
okay.
yeah, so phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, I mean, I can put something together and send to y'all of how we plan on constructing this. But, I mean, it'll be section 1, 3 and 4, then 2, then 5, then 6, is how it naturally would go. But again, once your ponds are installed, the only thing that we're worried about is getting that second point of access. Once that's done, your ponds are already installed, and drainage wise, we're good to go.
And we're talking about ponds installed, seeded,
Everything.
everything.
Yep.
done.
Because if not, I have to redesign it and fix it, and then I'm on the hook for the mud.
Owner acknowledges any approval of this variance does not constitute a future approval of plans or permits.
Mhm.
Master DIA and future construction will need to consistently meet floodplain regulations at the time of development.
So you make a comment in your support that if it's on the 8-year span, that it would be approved under today's standards.
Mhm.
Is that for the drainage standards for the subdivision regulations? But you understand that if you come in with a project and FEMA has changed their regulations,
Brandon,
we have to follow FEMA's rules.
Can you give it to me?
today?
Friday,
Friday or Thursday.
Thursday?
So
An
changes
email from the
floodplain regulations.
Right, floodplain.
Oh, the additional
We can't
support.
do anything on floodplain.
I don't know why he didn't.
As long as we're over.
I don't think they ever send it to them.
I'm going over it, so when I
I
make a
know.
motion, owner acknowledges any review provided by Walker County according to Walker County subdivision regulations, standard review process. Owner strikes last 2 bullet points under detention and masquerading notes and E.2/E.3 responses for requested variance.
So if you, on your response, there's a couple of places where you mentioned that we will do certain things in compliance with HUD's requirements or for the mud or
Mhm.
understand that our reviews under this project as a contingency of this variance, our reviews will be conducted standard.
Sure.
We're not approving any special procedures review process. Even though peers, in some places you kind of.
That was just from our conversation of how is the county gonna review this? We were just trying to make it clear.
You're not requiring a particular outside the norm
Mhm.
review.
Yeah, we were just highlighting the areas that you're looking at.
We just want to be clear that we will perform.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. This is just the first time we're doing it, so I wanted to make sure I get to this point, it's a train wreck.
And the last bullet point on here was owner acknowledges a proposed additional fee will not reduce the plat application fees for future sections.
So, and just correct me if my thought logic is wrong. So if we did that 125 per acre, that's part of the fee, we would pull that forward to do these reviews. The future fees, we would take that out of those. Is that?
You would have to request a waiver of those fees at the application of each section if you want to do that.
Gotcha.
What they're making clear is that we wouldn't be doing that today.
Sure, that's fine. We can do that. I mean, the thing is, we just, site topography, we're gonna have to do this, so we're just trying to make it work under the current rules and regs.
Miss anything else, Andy?
Maybe the only other thing is, what Walker County rules would want you to do is when you get to section 2, you do a section 2 DIA, right? So with a master drainage impact analysis, what we would then do is when we get to section 2 or section 4, you just provide a letter of concurrence in regard to the master DIA. And so long as your sections are being built as per what the DIA says, you don't have to provide a new one for just the section. The letter of concurrence is what does that.
Right, but we're still gonna have the fees to do all the, not the mass grading, but all the rest of the drainage.
Need to write a letter of concurrence with the section.
Yep.
And then detailed plans.
Absolutely. Yep, that's the plan.
Okay.
Well, they asking for public maintenance on these roads or not?
And we'll-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once we get to the section.
So my motion is gonna be to approve variance request number 1 with everything we just discussed.
Sure.
Agenda item 47.
Agenda item 1
47.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. 48. Request and take action on Four Star Real Estate Group. Request variance to section B 3.4.1 of the Walker County subdivision regulation regarding point of access.
All right, so this one, we talked about in heavy detail last week, and I think simplified it a lot. So the last variance, if you recall, to get that second point of access for section 1, we can all turn our heads.
You rotate that, Lucy.
There we go.
Thank you.
So what we were proposing last time is for the fire marshal recommendation is we were gonna do that all weather access road through the woods. Court had apprehension on that because of course our lead, who maintains it. So in court, Andrew had mentioned, what if we just looked at section 1 internally and figured out, can we get to around that 40 lots per access to 40-foot roadway? So when we were looking at the math, this was a local street, 32-foot wide. And so what you do is you have 9 lots, direct access to 40 feet. This is all 40 feet. So that one's easy. The remainder 124 lots that only had 2 access points. So that's 62 lots per access of 40 foot. And I know that's above the requirements. So we talked to Andy and trying to figure out how do we make this work. And so what he suggested, if y'all are okay with the logic, is we, instead of this being a local street, we would stub across the creek a collector street, a 40-foot roadway, and then north and west. So that's 40, that's 40. Now we can look at that as 2 points of access to a 40-foot street on the south side. If y'all are okay with that, then we take the 124 lots by 3 entrances. It's 41.3 lots per entrance, pretty close to the rule of 40. And the maximum amount of lots that you have that don't have circulation is this 25 lot cul-de-sac. But the remainder of the section has 3 access points from pretty much every house. And so that way there's no bond for a road through the woods. It makes it a little bit simpler. After we get past section 1, we connect the permanent roadways.
So somewhere in here, you mentioned all of this. There was a home park. Where's?
Model home park is this orange one at the very
Corner?
right here.
Okay.
The 9 lots. It's kind of standalone.
And the rest are gonna be spec homes.
Mhm. After that variant.
Okay, so GLS owner acknowledges the original space and variance applied under different ownership stated. Both Tech Dot roads were going to be built to Walker County subdivision standards in conjunction with paved. Second access would the subdivision standards policy, providing of any additional section.
So the next variance we'll talk about, and I'll wait until we get there, is the timing of the 2 entrances. So the TIA already states 87% of traffic is going to use this west side anyways. So this is the only thing that's needed day 1. When we get into the next phase, then yes, we build our east entrance, but it's no issue having the 1 point of access into the development day 1. That'll match the TIA.
Have y'all got approval from Tech Dot for that second entrance?
We have the preliminary location. We've been talking to TxDOT. That's a whole separate issue.
They do not have permits on either end yet.
TxDOT, so we've been in talks with Delmy and TxDOT, and they are saying that they will not give us approved construction permits until we are ready for construction. Walker County rules and regs state we need that before we do the plat submittal. So we're in the middle of this game right now trying to get all of Delmy. They basically are saying, we'll write a letter stating we're good with your entrances, and that's what she's told us. The locations are fine. They can't move east or west. They're locked in because we're at the bottom of the hill. So the prelim location, not worried about it at all, but that's the next thing we'll have to deal with them. How do we make both jurisdictions happy?
So the condition as you read it was that the second entrance should be constructed prior to the next section being platted. But I don't know what y'all's plans are, is either to build first and plat or plat.
We would do it at the same time. We would do that east entrance. Is that what you're talking about, the east entrance? We would do the east entrance with section 3 constructed at the same time.
So, okay, entrance constructed prior to constructed or bonded, that's what you would prefer?
Sure, yeah. We would construct the section. It works well when you go to the section and end with that, so you don't build first and then tear it up.
So we're doing construction then bond or bond then construction? Or plat and construction or construction then plat?
We would plat it and then construct it. I think that would give us enough
So the
time.
current language is prior to the plat. We may want to alter that to prior to the plat or bond.
Okay.
Okay, in what order the sections will be constructed along with a proposed construction timeline for each section? I think we asked that on the first variance. We need that on this one. Owner acknowledges in multiple locations of this application, the applicant refers to the necessity of having a master detention, master grading approval by Walker County. This is outside the scope of this variance, will require separate approval, which we gave you approval. Yes. Anything else I need?
Timeline on this variance. The first one, we allowed the 8 years. Want to put a timeline on this variance.
How long is it gonna take y'all?
So, yep, and the next variance is what addresses that one, but the east entrance, we're expecting that it'll be done construction, the entrance and the roadway connecting within 3 years of the completion of the west entrance. So basically, and maybe it's faster, we're gonna be going as fast as we can, but we do section 1, we build detention mass grading, construct detention mass grading phase 2, then we build this next. So 3 years is what
I can't recommend a time period based on the completion of construction of something. It should be based on today's date or so many years from today. Can you give us
Sure, so let's see. It is, we're gonna do detention mass grading in this section. I mean, I would just say 4 years, because it'll be a year from now by the time we get section 1 on the ground.
You can always come back and
Yeah,
ask for extension.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not gonna try to take longer.
So, approval of the plat within 4 years. Construction of the entrance within 4 years. Today's date.
So the motion is gonna be to approve variance to item 48. With bullet points we talked about. A letter from TxDOT, it's okay to construct. And the approval of plat and construction entrance, 4-year timeframe.
Yep.
Got it? That's gonna be my motion.
I'll second that.
Moving second, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. 49, discuss and take action on Four Star Real Estate Group request for variance to section B 3.4.1 of the Walker County subdivision regulations regarding distance between point of access.
This variant was previously approved, we're just adding timing to it, and we pretty much just approved that, but essentially, the recap, the diagonal distance to the property was 5,490 feet. Normally, the rule is minimum of 50% of the diagonal distance is the minimum spacing between your entrances, but just due to our sites and where TxDOT wants the entrances to be, we can't hit 50%, we hit 36%. We've talked to the fire marshal about that in the past. Chris Vernon talked to y'all about the past. We're still leaving that how it is. We've got them as wide as we possibly can. So we request that y'all accept that. And then same thing, that the east tie-in would be constructed within 4 years of today's date from the west side, the one that we just approved. And just getting this in 4Star's name.
So you're looking at the contingency that the plat for section 1 will be filed within.
So section 1 and plat 1 will be filed, as soon as we possibly can. It's just we would not include that east, the variances, since Walker County wants both installed day 1 and we can't do that. We would defer that the east entrance would be platted with section 3.
Within 4 years.
Within 4 years.
All right, so
For clarity's sake, the section 1 will be completed within.
I mean, as soon as we get these variances, we'll be done with design in a couple months, submit them to you, and then the plat process starts.
So I
however-
expect approval within 3 years.
For section 1?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, way less than that.
So is 3 years an acceptable timeline?
Mhm. Yep, so section 1 approved within 3 years is totally fine. It's just the section 3 entrance. I would say stick with the 4 years like we approved in the last.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
I'm gonna reiterate on this one that, I can't. The next phase, section or whatever will be with that construction of that second entrance.
Absolutely, it has to, or we'll have to be back in for variance again. Which I'm sure I'll be told no, and I don't want to do that anyways.
Good, Andy? On the conditions of what,
Anything else
nothing on that one?
other than the timeline?
We decided 4 years, 3 years.
4 years for the second entrance, 3 years for section 1 plat being filed.
We're gonna move to approve item plat for section 1 and 4 years for the entrance segment.
Works.
That's your motion. Hold on.
You on 48 or 49?
149.
Hold on just a minute. What? Request that they, have a letter of no objection from the PSD fire marshal.
You can request it,
As a condition of the variance?
but you don't need it.
I don't need it.
We approved this one in the past and Chance was okay with it back then.
I encourage you to make him happy.
We've already talked to him about all this. We did an in-person meeting and he was fine with the plan of attack.
Okay. And that temporary road, you are gonna work that out with them.
Yep, we got all that worked out.
All right, so yes, that'll be my motion.
I'll second that.
We were holding on Andy. What were we holding on you for?
Yes.
Yeah, I got a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thank
So
you.
no action on the option B.
Number 50, discuss and take action on allocation of additional funds for engineering service contracts.
You didn't put an amount on there, Andy. What you need?
Y'all may want to stay
I
for
thought-
workshop. We're gonna talk about ATJs. We're gonna talk about ATJs in the workshop. We're gonna go in that next. About our development codes and regulations.
You got him set back down. You done good.
Yeah. Now you wanna come complain, this is the section to complain here in a minute.
Good request. $1,000 be added. Different job years.
You say 80 or 8?
8,000?
I'm still having a little trouble, man.
So moved.
Okay.
Where is that? Wait.
Where's it coming from?
Where's it coming from?
Where Miss Allen tells us?
Probably,
Sound tell-
yeah.
Contingency?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just
Who made the motion?
I did.
Cause
Brandon,
everybody was talking. I didn't. hear.
Brandon, Bill, second.
Yep.
All in favor, raise your right hand.
8,000, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, vote on this.
All right, we're gonna go into workshop of Walker County subdivision regulations policies.
1830.
80, yeah.
Thank you, Amy.
Have a good one, Amy.
What you wanna start with, Andy?
That's, I'll let you guys tell me. We've got an update that's, we had some legislative changes last year that we can bring in the policy. The water. That kind of stuff. So we're looking at enough. Here, we see what it is.
Hey, I'm gonna stop you. Let's go back to what Jack just came in. What was that? 40? We can go back to number 40. I'll let Cactus Jack get up and talk. And discuss and take action on proposal for landscape at Sam Houston's 13th Street corner annex. Cactus Jack.
Good morning.
Morning.
So, old cowboy movies, they had totems. When you go out of town, there'd be the markers, show where the towns are at. We're having a totem built. On the top of it's gonna be a raven. Sam Houston, if I pass, put these pictures on, you can take
You
a
bet.
picture. He's working on it now. And all of it's being dominated by, and I'm working the veterans, my Amos's place. Excuse me.
That's gonna go on top of it, Jack?
Yes, the raven will go on top. My girlfriend's having a problem with it. Excuse me. There'll be a skull in his talons representing all the death. And what it's gonna do, it's gonna have everything from the Alamo to San Jacinto. Will include the observations of the Indians, because it was known for that. And then the major towns that were here in the 1800s that were on the maps, Felipe. Handful of those. So we'll have these up and down. They'll be painted bright. And Gene Woods, county surveyor, is gonna help me come out there. Where we get it placed, we're gonna do it exactly where the directions is and all that. Raven, and then it'll have Sam Houston underneath it. Maybe the picture, of what we have. Reach. This is the drawing that the artist did. He was in San Diego, north of LA, and I brought him into town to start carving.
Same.
Yes, sir.
We're doing, currently I'm doing the corners with the Mayflower Bakery and license plate buildings there. Well, there's no visible place that's legal because of the big metal box that belongs to TxDOT. So we had to go back behind it. Then on the other side, Vance Howard's bought that lower area. He's gonna build a park from them lower areas, but we don't know when that's gonna go. On this side, Donut Wheel has too many poles. It doesn't make it of it. But we can do it on the, get permission to do it on the side where the county title building is. I'm willing to come in, and I owned a big tree company before I got into this business. I'd take those two, where you come in off from this side, walk in, clean those oaks up all through there and raise the limbs so you can see the building. Come around the other side and clean that oak up. And what I'd like to do is gut all them bushes that are down there. They got Burford hollies that are big. They got trees growing up in them because apparently the city didn't have any money to cover cleaning it. I'll do all that for nothing. If we can get that corner approved to put the statue on that corner, it'd come up like a mound, so it's off the right of way out of the TxDOT's area. It would mount the Raven there and have him fly in this direction. Everybody in the boulevard will see it. And it represents San Houston University also. That's what I'm asking.
What's the skull for again? I'm not a skull fan.
Well, the skull represents all the death that the Mexicans came through killing everybody. All the towns were burned and stuff, Goliad and what have you, and that's to represent the death of the people.
Kind of with Brandon on that. I like that. I'm not opposed to the idea of the totem pole stuff. I would like to think we could do something different than a skull there.
Well,
I don't know what else.
artist is in town, he's carving on it now. He hasn't done the skull, but we could do a ball or something else and make it look different.
What about
He's
like,
got the talons, he left them wide enough, because he'll go in, he's gonna sharpen up the faces. But the pictures that you saw there, he has the first coat of black on it, so when it dries.
Yeah.
He can go back in and chip it some more, so we could put something on it. Make something else on the ball other than the skull.
can you put like we think like a Texas.
Yeah,
star or
where's all the funding coming from? Who's
I
funding
got
it? Donation?
Donation, yes, sir. Anybody that donates $250 or more is getting their name on a laser cut plaque that'll go at the site. When Sam Houston statue, when the fairgrounds put up the new sign, I was there watching them do it. I went and found out that Mike Yargo was the guy. I told him, can you meet me tomorrow morning? I had a drawing. I said, if you let me do what I want to at the fairgrounds, I'll do it for nothing. And I had people, everybody's name on there, down there, Steve Ray Walker, to all these other fellas, their name's on a laser print cut since, so it's always gonna be there.
What are they cutting this out of, Jack?
Steel, you know, Ross Long,
I'm talking about the totem. That's
it's being carved. We
Yeah.
pulled a big pine out over Martinez's.
yeah. How long is it gonna last is what I'm getting at.
It'll probably last another 20 years if we keep up with it.
Keep it painted, yeah.
Well, there's a stain that you put on it. And I'm gonna be living here till I'm dead, so. You know, I'll,
Yeah, Lanita ain't gonna let you go nowhere.
you know, you ain't been out of the house. Like, we know how it feels. But, yeah,
Well, what about putting it on county property since you walked back in the door, Quentin? I was gonna put it on Will, but you,
Should be out there longer. The-
on whatever they're carving out.
well,
I mean,
I don't know, were you out when I was?
Do more of a donation to
What
the
I'm going
county.
to do is go down there and those two big trees on this side. We cut them out like a bonsai and raise them. I had a big tree company for years. And then down the other end, clean that one also, but all them Burford hollies down the side, I pull them all up. I put 5 Texas sages, which are native. And in between them, we put knockout roses. Once and every so many months, you come by, whack them off and everything's fine. And narrow it down. I do all that for nothing.
The choice of how to use county facilities belongs to the commissioner's court. So it's your choice whether you want to do something like that or not.
It would be like the monuments, like the memorial,
It's very much the same.
same principle.
So I got no skull on this side.
I'd like some.
I
other
like the
ideas.
skull.
I'd like some other ideas besides the skull.
It represents
It wouldn't take much for us to put it back on the judge, would it? I know it ain't what he wanted to hear.
It's okay too.
Can't believe they want to take the skull out.
But every car driving down
We'll
Sam
record
Houston
it.
Avenue is gonna see this, and they're not gonna have the card next to it says the skull represents the death of
Well,
all the people.
if they took history in school, they know about the death.
I would like something more
I'm good with the skull.
positive and uplifting. I'd like a big old Texas Loans, like the Raven holding the Lone Star that gets us to Texas, and then Sam Houston's under that, and
Or the Raven holding the county seal, if he could carve that.
might be fun too. Maybe some ideas. I just don't like the idea of the skull because we don't have the explanation next to it. We just have
Might
Dungeons
go
and Dragons
against you
on
on
the
this,
square. Is what we've
I'm
got.
going with the skull.
Skull.
How far is he with it, Jack?
Huh?
How far is he with it?
He was gonna do the dome of the skull today, so the talons will fit it.
Yeah,
I brought him in from north of LA. His mom and dad moved here 2 years ago out in Elkins Lake.
yeah.
Bob Stout at the hardware store introduced me to him. I started looking for him. He was up there working with the rich people. One of those pictures, I think, shows the eagle.
Mhm.
It's 12 foot. This Raven will be right at 48 inches wide. I didn't realize until I started doing some research how big ravens are. They get to 5 feet wide. Big birds.
Yeah.
Which way you going, Danny?
I'm good with school. We'll see
All
where this goes.
You got two, you got 2 and 2.
This is becoming a legacy.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the skull either. but, how far up that skull gonna be where you can't recognize it?
Oh, the pole's probably gonna be 12 foot, the cedar post that we're gonna cut up, and then he's gonna put him on a dowel where I can epoxy him in the top. He's gonna be pretty high up there.
It's gonna be, so it's not all one piece then. It's gonna be on
Well,
the
It's
cedar.
action.
As a post, he's carving all the
Yeah.
structure for
Okay.
the arch,
It's
and he's gonna put a deal and I'll put pricing around it, it won't go anywhere.
Yeah.
I have a
Oh, I see the post now.
man that I worked with for a long time that had a very popular term that has stayed in my head, and it is a term called a structured asphalt. And to me, this is a structured asphalt. We logically made this decision, to put a skull on our street for 20,000 people in town for a football game to see.
Hey, I'm still good with it. You ain't changed my
Might get a
mind.
history, might get a history lesson out of it.
Yes, we will.
You know, we don't teach history in school no more.
Yeah.
They bring up some questions why.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion,
Let's see what the judge gonna do.
to agree to all this without the skull.
Judge, I have a question. You may already know the answer to this, but I just deal with land a lot. You guys authorize it to be placed there. Y'all responsible for maintenance. If you want to remove it, can you remove it?
It's on us, it's ours.
Well, there's two ways. Most of the stuff on our square, we authorize an entity to place something on the square, but they are responsible for it. Or we could accept a donation of this to the county and then contract with him at no cost to install it and it'd be ours. I think we need to be clear on that too, when we do it. So it's cleaner if we just take it. We just say it's ours. If we just say it's ours, because
I don't have a problem with it. 72, I don't know how much time we got.
I hear you, brother. So any chance your artist can do some other additions on the square and on the skull?
Ask him about it when we get out of here. He's actually, he took it home last night because he was up in San Martinez. All the looky loos kept coming up there. He was worried somebody gonna try to steal him. He's also he's fixing to do Kim's show. Yeah, coming up with a bunch of.
See, if he's half into the dome, he could just make it a ball and it could be the come and take it ball from the come and take it.
Cannonball.
Then you have an explanation. If you don't know what it is, you don't know what it is.
There you go.
But if you do know what it is, then you know it's the come and take it ball from the come and take it cannon.
If it's a skull, I'm voting no.
I don't know also.
See if we can get 3 no's unless we change it.
I'll change it.
Okay, so my motion is gonna be to accept the donation from Cactus Jack of the totem pole and landscaping of the annex, excluding the skull.
And bring back some ideas or just nothing, just.
Nothing, no skull.
He's carving.
Yeah, let him come up with something. No skull.
Okay.
Some
When,
kind
what
of
is,
ball and we'll figure out what.
so what is your take on this? I mean, we need some kind of document. I mean, are we just saying here?
Make a record when you're having
Yeah.
these discussions here in court.
But I mean, as far as maintenance, and I guess as long as Jack maintain it.
Fix do the. I got the veterans want to help to get the walls and everything.
Okay. As long as you don't see no problem down the road with it.
You're accepting a donation, you'll.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still ours and we can.
Yeah,
remove
we
it or
still
whatever.
mow it and everything
Yeah, do Whatever
anyways.
you need to do with it,
Okay.
as long as it's a skull.
That's my motion.
I'm seconding that one.
Move and second it, all in favor, raise your right hand.
I can't vote with
We're
y'all.
going with the cannonball now?
Yeah,
Y'all done voted. I'll stick with the skull.
motion for, against. All right, move and second it, motion passed.
We tried, Jack.
Okay.
Now you get it. Yeah, there you go. All right, we'll go back in the workshop now.
If you got the eyes already carved.
got those veterans.
Make a bowling ball out of it.
Tomorrow night.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Center bowling lanes.
There you go, like, oh,
What y'all got against a skull?
Oh, absolutely nothing.
All right, sorry about that.
Make me bury all that.
Where were we at, Andy?
We were just on.
Okay.
Workshop is here. There's a court opportunity. Commissioner, let everybody be able to discuss if there's other things that I want to talk about. That I have on my list.
contractor is potentially having a requirement for, I guess, an objection letter, our policy, and then potentially requiring a different color backing signs for private roads. On the actual sign to start the process of differentiating them from publicly maintained.
Well, you said signage and some kind of.
Just the sign, the sign stock right now.
Yeah.
It's the same color stock.
Yeah.
Some entities have different
Change
color
the color.
stock that they use
Right.
depending on the maintenance of the road, so that
Yeah.
people can tell, both the people down it can tell, and also, as I understand, it's helpful law enforcement.
Right. Typically, it's green and brown.
Yeah.
That's the main gist of it.
Yeah, and we'd actually, after you asked me yesterday, we'd actually purchased some brown blanks already. We were getting ready to go there. I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. A private road marked with a brown marker makes it, everybody knows what that means.
Yeah.
This is the, like, again, the purpose of this workshop is if there are issues that you think would be good to add or subtract or change in the code, this would sort of give me some guidance to go ahead and spend time preparing potential amendments to the code without spending time on things that the court has no interest in.
I wanna know what we're gonna do with this damn ETJ shit.
So I'm
Well, yeah.
I'm emailing that.
I'm
email you
sick
sent
of-
to me to Lucy Ann to pull up. That email we talked about the other day.
Address, what do you need?
It's been
So-
ongoing since I've been here. We can't
Yeah.
seem to get off first base.
Yeah, I
So
just sent you an
ETJ, I
email.
mean, we've talked about it for years and, you know, the end result is we got to get the city, the commissioner's court involved together. And, I've talked to the mayor and not against it. Just everybody getting up off of it and doing something.
Yeah.
I did.
I
So me and Andy's been meeting with them here and there and made suggestions, haven't gone in. Right, Andy? I mean, we talk, and nothing.
Are we talking to?
We're talking to Aaron, Russell, and Andy's counterpart.
Trying to decipher interpretation.
Mhm.
So we got development already going, the place out in Crash Prairie, it's on hold because they thought they had sewer and now they don't have enough room to put sprayers.
That guy knew he didn't have sewer.
Right,
Yeah.
now they don't have no place to put sprayers.
Well,
So-
that was on him.
But you know, the
Which one?
city's blaming us,
They're across.
Old Macmillan place.
Okay.
Yeah. Yates is, Orbital. Yeah.
Well, we know there's kind of three ways. The city can control the ETJ, or the county can control the
The attachment
ETJ.
not show up?
And then the third, and actually I have a friend who used to work with me in the city of Conroe that I may have him see how it works down yonder, where you work out, you sit down with a map and you draw out. Here, let me do this real quick. Chris,
There's actually four methods. The statute establishes one, the city controls is the regulatory office for the ETJ. One does it. Third method is a hybrid where you
together.
specifically identify certain regions and assign them to either the county or the city. And the fourth is where the city and the county create a unified office that represents both of them and does it. And I'm gonna, at the risk of saying I told you this before, I keep telling you that what it will take is likely a letter to the city terminating the current ETJ agreement and requesting a joint committee to reach a new proposal. And back in the days when cities, wasn't all that long ago, when cities could still annex territory fairly easily, it was understandable why the city would be so concerned with maintaining the control that they have. Now.
Not so much.
They've kind of lost that.
And it's almost completely extinguished. And it's not, but it's very difficult for them now. They may be more than happy to go for option 2, to shift it over to the county. I don't know, but it's been mentioned even today by members of the court. I believe a committee needs to be formed between the city and the county. And I'm thinking in terms of city council members and commissioners court members, sit down and negotiate whether you want to adopt one of the other 3 versions or whether you want to maintain the current version with modification. I said that many of you are new on the court, haven't heard me say this before, but as drafted, the interlocal agreement created some ambiguities and some uncertainties that if you're going to stay with the city as the primary source of regulation in the ETJ, those things need to be addressed. And that's what, one way or the other, that's what needs to happen. And I'm gonna say, I've been saying this for 10 years.
I know you've been saying it for almost 8.
So if we send a letter and terminate this agreement we got, everything in the ETJ follows under Andy.
No.
No?
The law requires an interlocal agreement. It has to happen. There has to be one. There currently is one.
Yeah, that's right. It's on screen.
Right, and it's been around for a long, long time. It's never been amended, never been updated, and the ambiguities and the conflicts in there are challenging. And they're part of the problems that you've had. But because there has to be one, and the statute, by the way, the legislature did never anticipate this, at least not that I can find in legislative history and so forth, where parties, a party or both parties would want to change it, but it's an interlocal agreement. And any ILA can be terminated by either party. That's just standard law. So the county could send a notice, we're giving you 120 days notice that we're terminating this ILA. And therefore we need a new agreement. And so whatever the process was all those years ago, essentially you're repeating it now. I don't know that it comes down to needing to send a termination letter as much as it comes down to the mayor appointing members of the city council and the judge appointing members of the commissioners court and setting a date to start doing it. And I will say this, because I don't know which ones of you will be on that committee. You have 4 options for this ILA, and there's actually nothing wrong with the current option that's being selected. What's wrong is some of the terms and clauses that create certainties in there. And so it just needs to be done.
Can we do that today in workshop?
No.
We can set a committee
You
anytime.
can set a committee anytime without court action.
Can the judge send a letter today saying,
Oh, I don't want to send a letter canceling. No, I would never.
not cancel it, but
To ask for the committee to,
Yes.
for a joint committee to meet. The judge can do that. You can make an agenda item. You can't take an action on it right now because it's in a workshop. You can make an agenda item for 2 weeks from now if you choose to do so. That's fine. And probably the best, cleanest way to do it is that. But regardless, that's what it's gonna take is it's gonna take people with the authority from the city and the county to negotiate a potential new interlocal agreement and then present it in front of the 2 bodies to vote on. And part of that agreement would be to terminate the current agreement and replace it with the new one. So,
I know in the past, Judge Pierce here, we had visited with the city many times to try to get something going with them, and we just never did get there.
and I believe a large reason for that, Commissioner, is that because the city still had the relative ease of annexation.
Maybe
They
so.
still want to patrol and control the ETJ, even though they can't really annex it without the property owners wanting to come in. They may still want that. And if that's the case, then you keep the same version, but you just amend this thing. It makes vague and ambiguous references. And to be honest, and I know Andy and I have had more than our share of debates about this, some of the interpretations about the way that's supposed to work are, they can be clarified and they can be fixed. So it's possible to do that, but it makes sense in light of the current ETJ annexation rules that the legislature has created on cities. It makes sense for us to offer to the city to take it off of their plate. They essentially would get to walk away and not have to really do very much anymore. And they may want to do that now. I know in the years past, they did.
Well, and that's the problem now. I ain't calling the city out. Yes, the way I am.
Call them out. They need
The way it goes now is we have no control over it, inspections or anything. And Mr. Bias has got a good point. You know, you got 2 people that's sitting up here, and at the end of the deal, we're the ones stuck, you know? And when we're not seeing what's getting put on the ground and we're responsible for it, I'm not happy about it.
I understand that.
And that's where my big hangup is that the end result, the end product, we had no say so in. You get away from who gets what fee and all that. In the end, it goes back to what I said a while ago, the taxpayer is the one that pays for it.
I can understand your position. You articulated one that's been articulated by members of this court for a
Many
long time. Again, that comes down to some of the interpretation of what the ILA is supposed to do and what the authorities are. And honestly, I would anticipate that had this original agreement had made the county authority for this, you would have heard the same kind of comments from the city. Because that's one of the purpose for this was to make it easier for developers by giving them one shop to go to, right? But the problem with that is if there's not an adequate mechanism and appropriate communication between the two entities, then you always have the one who didn't get to decide saying, well, we didn't get to see, we don't really know. But that's the nature of this law that requires this. It's always going to be that way unless you do the unified office who represents both entities, or you divide the ETJ into regions and you let one party handle one and the other handle the other. There are problems with.
Well, you know, Quentin, we went 7 years before we took in that one subdivision out there.
I understand.
You know,
I'm just saying that.
But it was wrote off on by the city.
And
7 years before.
And that goes back to the flaws with, and I'm not really criticizing the attorneys who drafted in the commissioner's court, none of y'all, and the city council, none of them that adopted that ILA. That thing's from a long time ago.
Yeah.
And when it was done, the first time I read it, I was like, well, that's a problem, and that's a problem. Things that are ambiguous there about what's meant by that. The number one thing for me is what standard is the city supposed to use in the ETJ?
Yeah.
This agreement did not ever anticipate that the city would change its standards over the years. That should have been addressed. And that's where part of your problem is. And the city's needs are different than the county's needs. I'm not saying either one is better or more important than the other. They're just different.
Yeah.
And so the agreement lacked clarity and it lacked foresight. But
there
at
again,
the moment it was the legislature said, you got to do it really quick. So they did. It should never have been left this long for all the squabbling that's gone on.
but there again too, that's the reason we brought our subdivision policies up close to what the city is for that reason, trying to make things easier.
Which
But
I'll say probably that is also, he mentioned the fact that they have less ability to annex than they did.
yeah, absolutely.
Another thing that has changed
Yeah.
is that our regulations are closer to theirs, in some cases even surpassing theirs.
Yeah.
As far as, what is required is from an infrastructure standpoint.
And to be hopeful or fair to the drafters of this original agreement at the time, the discrepancy between the city and the county wasn't all that great. But
Well, no,
over
because,
time,
yeah.
the city raised their standards multiple times and the county didn't. And so there was, by the time I arrived 12 years ago, almost 13 years ago, there was a sizable difference between what the county had and what the city had. There were big disagreements. And as Andy said correctly, he's continued to come to y'all and y'all continue to raise your standards. There's not that much difference in road quality and so forth now between the city and the county. There are still differences, but there are ways for the ILA to compensate for that if one entity or the other is the one making the decisions.
Well, and this thing sat stagnant forever. I mean,
Absolutely.
where there wasn't
Yeah.
development, and now it is, and it does need to be redone. And
This one has never been amended.
And if sending the letter and asking the city to get involved with us, I think is the first step, but where we go from there, if we need to cancel the contract, then we cancel the contract or the agreement.
Yeah,
If that's what gets them to the table.
Right.
Yeah. You know?
And that literally, as you're saying correctly, Commissioner, that's if you just can't get them to come to the table. But I think now the time may be right with the annexation rules having changed to approach the city and request and give a date and say, let's have a joint committee to review this ILA starting on such a date. And just gotta start it, just gotta do it. It honestly, don't think it'll take very long to do it.
Mr. Bass?
Thank you. I'm not gonna complain about a thing. I've been doing this with the ETJ now probably for 20 some odd years. And I've been to this court all the way back to Judge Wagner and probably even Frank Robinson. And this problem has existed since the ETJ was created. And it's been my experience that the ETJ and keeping commissioners from accepting roads and building up amazing amount of liability for the maintenance of improper roads was a good thing. But also the city didn't want to take these poorly constructed roads themselves during annexation. This is a statewide problem. I've traveled through many counties, talked with many developers across the state of Texas. In Georgetown, Williamson County, this is almost $1 billion problem for the county. And what you do here is vitally important. And y'all all know I ran for the legislature. I was endorsed by the Texas Association of Realtors, and there's a reason why. It's because I understand the solution to this problem globally. And I think you would agree, the legislature has never properly addressed this. They threw something out there 20-something years ago and said, you shall agree. And I can tell you from dealing with the city, you can't in 4 or 5 years get anything done. They'll change the rules, move the goalpost, and you never get to the end of the chase. Y'all know that as well as I do. Now, one of the major reasons that I did seek to serve was because there's a lot of these really unsexy issues out there that don't move the needle as far as the electorate goes, but they're vitally important to the people. Texas Association of Realtors is ready, willing, and able. They're the most powerful lobbying group in Austin, Texas, to address this particular issue. I believe that this time would be more well spent asking the legislature, and especially now that we have a representative from here who could get some things done and would be very helpful to him to know this issue and lead on getting this passed so that there is a model agreement. Model A, joint administration. Model B, county administration. Model C, city administration, or none in Gillespie County or wherever the farthest, Loving County, where they don't have any development and jackrabbits don't care. So it's not a one size fits all problem. And I believe that you would have more traction asking the city and the county to form a task force and work with the legislature and our new state representative to get things done here. And I have one client, customer, friend. He has a little section of road that the county's never accepted between a county road and a private road, but it happens to cross a bridge, which is in the floodplain. There are 100 families the other side of that bridge. They can't get to their house or get out, and he can't find any resolution. These 100 families' lives are in danger. But you think the county's going to take it? You think the city's going to take it? You think anybody's going to take it? No. And he keeps asking me, what can I do about it? Well, I don't believe, are going to be able to reach an agreement with the city. You've tried for 20 years, I'm sure, in good faith. This is a legislative matter, and they should give you the direction. Once upon a time, I asked, what is the definition of county road maintenance? And your former district attorney advised me that it's as long as a stump is not greater than 5 inches and a Model T can pass over it, that's a county road.
Thought it was 6 inches.
It is.
But you got to, you know what I'm saying. So-
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And then there's guys like us out here trying to provide home and hearth and economic development. And we're just sitting out here, just like I said earlier. It isn't your fault. It's not their fault. It is a flaw in the Texas law. And Texas law is antiquated based on the amount of growth that we have. I think you can all agree with that. And I think it's time that we formed a team and actually could be a leader, since we're one of the fast growing counties outside of major metropolitan area. We are bearing the brunt of the problem. Grimes County is bearing the brunt of the problem. I know the county judge over there, and I've talked about it. Same thing in Brenham. Even worse in College Station and Bryant, Madisonville. Everybody has this same problem. And like I say, we have one of the premier property rights organizations in America, standing ready, willing, and able to help us. And I think it's a good time to get something out there and put it on the table for debate in the proper form. So that's my advice to you for what it's worth. And I hope I'll be glad to help anywhere I can, because this is costing millions and millions, maybe billions of dollars in Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Bice.
I do kind of wonder also, the way they have been throttling back the city's rights to grow, with the annexation laws and stuff like that. With this legislative session, when is the pre-filing period for the session come up, you know? Right now, I'll be interested to see if a bill is filed to even just do away with the ETJ authority of the cities.
There's a lot of people talking.
Yeah.
Texas Municipal League created that.
Oh, yeah.
Texas Association of Counties, I can tell you what their position is, or HGAC. Problem is, you've got a lot of really powerful political movers on the other side of the equation. But like I say, this is not a real sexy ditch to die in if you're a politician. So I've been advised that you can take this as companion legislation, move it through, get it attached to some other bill that nobody's going to object to, and probably solve this problem in this legislative session, because real estate issues are going to be probably the only thing that gets done based in this contentious environment.
Yeah.
So we're going to be so busy fighting over be the next speaker of the house and who's going to run the state. This is going to be a ridiculous situation.
Yeah.
And you've got a good chance of solving this, probably better than you've ever had, between Texas counties, Texas Municipal League, and the intergovernmental agencies. So does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Of course, in the meantime, you're gonna send a letter and see if we can get something started with them.
I mean, we can send a letter now and say we want to start negotiating.
Yeah.
We're all good with that.
Yeah, we don't have to have that as an action item. We can do that today.
Mhm.
All right, so we jumped over to ETJs, back to road signs. What color are all the road signs in TGR?
Brown looking color to me, but you asking the colorblind guy now.
Well, that's what I'm asking. They typically brown represents private drives. They have their own road signs constructed. They're a little different than our norm. Normally we see green backings. Those out there, I believe, are brown. if I remember right.
Yeah, they're kind of a brownish color.
So when the road signs get stolen, who's gonna replace them and what color?
So far, they know they get the core plastic if I put them up.
Okay.
They haven't asked me to put up any.
Just trying to clarify.
Did I tell you where we stand?
I'm good with that. Well, I know who makes them, so.
I think the biggest thing is if the board is interested in adopting some sort of a program for maintenance on the signs, we could even look at Forest Service and some other things as well. That's something we could sort of put together in the draft. If we decide to do some rule changes, either the judge can put a committee to look at them, or I can just bring them back to court with some proposals. As far as the precise colors, my main thing I wanted to get out of the court today, and not to stop your discussion, is it something we're even interested in?
Well, if I remember right, you might correct me if I'm wrong on this, Brendan. I think all the private signs has the word says private on there. If you look at, was it Club Lake, whatever it is when you go out there, not Club Lake, but the next one.
Sunset.
Or Dr. Cooley used to, what's the name of that?
Sunset.
Sunset Lake, I think it says private on there.
Yeah, none of mine say private. I don't have a single private road that says private. So that's why we're going with Brown. We're gonna swap to Brown.
But Brown pretty well does.
Brown for
define it.
private?
Yeah, Brown for private.
But
And
you got 40-something miles out there at TGR that's got brown signs that may
yeah,
not.
well, it would just be here going forward. And you could tell them, hey, when that brown sign gets stolen, if y'all gonna put it back, it needs to be green.
We would like for you to bring that back so we can discuss it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's pretty consistent in the city too.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other part of that, the other thing I had Andy brought it as, when we were getting these developers and bringing us stuff that we get letters of no objections from different people or requirements from TechStot for entrances or whatever. I'd like to add in to the subdivision policy that we get a letter of no objection from the ESD or that jurisdiction.
I don't have a problem with it, but I'll tell you, I guess I do. Come to think of it.
That's why I brought it up.
Let me just say this, I mean, because it really holds absolutely no weight with us. If that jurisdiction gives them a headache, then I don't want to make them do it. As long as they can get it, but when you deal with jurisdictions, I mean, of course, you're dealing with a different situation. And you're asking for a letter of no objections and they just don't give it to you. Then we have to look at, hey, well, we're requiring this.
Yeah.
And so that's gonna be my headache with it. I mean, the reality of it, I don't have a problem asking for it, but if they can't get it from them, then don't hold their feet to the fire.
So I agree with you. My thought on that was, that letter of no objection would come from a fire marshal. If the ESD does not have a fire marshal, then it wouldn't be included until they get to that point.
One other thing I found over the years is when you sign a plat and you're the developer and you convey a right of way, which is I sold that land to the public. So now I've conveyed the right of way to the public. I no longer have any right to go on public property and maintain, manipulate, or do anything with a public improvement. Yet you want me to go and do this, that, and the other. But as soon as that right of way is conveyed, that's public property. But nobody designates who the public is. So you just conveyed your property into outer space. As far as, I mean, that may not be proper legal jargon, I'm sure, but I don't know who I gave that property to. And that's where we get into a bind, because we had a road out there that failed. And they said, well, you need to go take care of it. I said, well, it's not mine to take care of. Finally, Danny Pierce goes, I give you the authority to go do that. Well, that took a whole new legal mindset as to who can convey the developer the right to go maintain public property or rebuild public property. So I think your strong suit and your leverage point is deciding who is the public when the conveyance is made.
For the clerk's benefit, Mr. Bias and I have a very different interpretation of that public conveyance. And so, but this is not the right time or place for that. So I'll just say that when that comes up for you, I have an answer.
I've been kind of, ever since actually the guy who came today, since he was here last time, we're talking about the fire marshal's influence and stuff like that.
You're still back there, right?
Yeah, he's still back here. I've started thinking about that just more and more. So I did some research on it and they had sent stuff to us before to read. So I went back and read it. And if a district, like the county, we don't have a fire marshal. We have one, but he's very limited what we have in a contract. So we don't have
We don't have a fire.
well, for the.
We have one for mass gathering.
Mass
That's
gathering,
it.
that's, so we don't have one, we can say that. If they choose to incorporate a fire marshal like they have the authority to do. And then they adopt a fire code that fire marshal can enforce, down which they've done, NESD 2, it's the only one that's done it. That, to me, it does a couple of things. He can, and he said it here before, as far as fire protection and stuff in a neighborhood, that can be almost a tool to get people away from the hundreds of little individual wells and say, no, this neighborhood needs to have fire protection. in this subdivision, like the subdivision they brought. They're a mud and they're gonna put a well in there, a big well. They didn't have to. They didn't have to make it big enough to put fire protection in. But fire marshal could look at it and say, we developed fire code or we adopted the fire code. Y'all need to put fire protection in that subdivision. I got no problem with that. They want to build it, they'll build it. It's exclusive to that district and it's just too much heat. That the heat will come to the district and say, hey, y'all need to back off of that. You're killing us. So I've kind of come around to it.
So, gonna weigh in here for a second. So the health and safety code establishes an ESD's authority to have a fire marshal.
Right.
And it lays out very specifically what that fire marshal's duties, responsibilities, and authorities are. They don't have anything to do with subdivision regulations at all. There's a clear division. The subdivision regulations are 100% within the authority of the commissioners. The fire marshal's duties are spelled out in detail in the health and safety code. It's beneficial for the commissioners court to hear what a fire marshal has to say because they've adopted some fire safety code there. It's absolutely beneficial, but it is not required. And I sometimes think when I'm addressing you, I make it sound like I want you to ignore the fire marshal. I want to make that clear. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you can't abdicate your authority on that. He doesn't have authority on that. And so if you make a decision about whether there's going to be wells or not in the subdivision, that's inside of your authority as a commissioner's court. If you want to take advice and information from the fire marshal, I'm good with that, but you shouldn't.
Well, and that, my only thought was just that, you know, we have certain requirements for to get from TxDOT for all the stuff we've done today, right? TCQ, clean floodplain, all that. Is it?
Statutorily assigned. If you look, I just challenge you to go back and read the health and safety code on the fire marshal. And you will see there is nothing in there about wells and about subdivision regulations, about access points. That's in an entirely different, that's in a code that they've adopted for their fire marshal that is totally separate and apart from anything in the statutes about subdivision. So that's where I'm saying, I'm not telling you don't go visit with the fire marshal. He's a good guy and he's doing a good job. I'm not telling you not to consider his point of view. What I'm telling you is he doesn't have any authority. He's supposed to investigate hazards, investigate fires. You read the health and safety code yourself on that instead of taking my word for it.
And number 3, and this is the only reason that cracked the door open for me. Investigate all state, county, and district orders and rules that relate to fires, comma, explosions, so that's pre, or damages caused by a fire and an explosion, that's after. So
it's also part of the same, it's all related to fire and fire hazards, and it refers to structures. Structures are buildings, they're not roads, they're not flats. So, and what I think and I guess I want to make this really clear. I encourage the court to work in cooperation, but it's ultimately your call. And he doesn't have subdivision authority. But if he has some insight on, well, you know, if you're going to plat this and there's going to be all these structures which do fall under his purvey, then you may want to, I encourage you to continue to visit with the fire marshal. I'm just telling you, you don't have any authority when it comes to subdivision and platting.
Right.
It's not there. In any
A question whenever y'all get the chance.
understand they're going to disagree with me, that's fine.
Who is
And
this?
you're always able to go and visit with another attorney if you don't like my, you know, I'm good with that.
Yeah. And I guess that's kind of where I'm at. I don't have any troubles with placing the burden on them to come back and say, this is why we should be here. I mean, I have this, I've read the health safety code and I read that. And like I said, I was reading through it and I didn't find much that said, yeah, they could come. But then I saw that one that said anything to do with fires. And that's kind of a very gray area because they don't put bullets under that and say as described by A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Commissioner, the key thing about reading law is reading it in context. And you can't read any particular statute in such a way that it causes a conflict with another statute. The fire marshal's authority is related to structures and fires and explosion and fire hazards. That's where his authority is located. It's not the roads, it's not the drainage or the detention ponds, it's not the plat. Because that's not what the fire marshal's authority is related to. I will say again, consult, take advice, listen to their perspective, talk about access roads, think about, absolutely. Because that protects you and the county from potential liability. So it's a good thing to do. Just remember, I'm not gonna let you give away your authority if I can help it.
Ally, who's online?
Last name's Cooper. It's a man.
Sorry, this is Jacob Slot. My
Okay, go ahead, Jacob.
My iPad was moved back to my mother-in-law, so I apologize. It's
Yeah,
coming up with the
go ahead.
wrong name and I forgot how to change it. All right, Jacob Slot, just trying to, I guess I got one question. So I guess from Quentin's analogy, the fire marshal doesn't have the right to enforce the fire code. Is that correct?
No, sir, that is not what I said at all.
Okay. Well, the fire
Not
code
even
has, we don't have the authority to regulate subdivisions. You are 100% right. I agree with that stance in every way possible. We do have the right under the fire code that is adopted by the district to talk about ingress and egress in and out of subdivisions, to talk about water supply, how close buildings can be together, and so on and so forth. That's all in the fire code, the International Fire Code. That is the only thing that we have authority on. Do you agree with that?
I'm not gonna weigh in on this, Mr. Slot. You've got your position on it. We'll move forward.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm just saying, if we have the right to enforce fire codes, that is the only thing. We can't tell you how big a road has to be. We can't tell you, we just have to go within the International Fire Code that is adopted, that falls in line with y'all's current subdivision regulations. I mean, this is not new ground. This is something that every other county around us that has fire marshals, they get approval. In this, and this is my opinion. I'm going back off the fire chief hat and go to the developer. I mean, all we've asked for is to have the ability for the county to take our approval and include it with TxDOT, Blue Bonnet, all of these that are required by a developer. If we would just get a letter of no objection from the fire marshal, so that we even know about the stuff that's going in. So pretty good about most people coming to see us, but as stuff gets busier, we're not going to get that. But eventually, I hope the county, if they ever do go to a fire marshal, that fire marshal will have to approve these plats and stuff as well if you ever have a county fire marshal. So anyway, I agree. We cannot regulate subdivision. We cannot regulate that. What we can regulate, though, is the International Fire Code, which has been adopted by the district.
Didn't we add them to our list, Andy?
So the court directed me to, for clarity's sake, we have a list of potential people you may need to contact for permits that we hand out when people apply for development permits under the floodplain. They are, as per court's request to me, have been added to that list. So they appear in the list with a phone number saying, if you're making sure which permits, people like Mr. Byatt, when they are doing a development, they get experience to know all the agencies, federal, state, and local, that they may need to get approval from during the process. What we tried to do in an attempt to help FEMA in good faith is provide a list of other agencies you may need to go seek approval from for your project. For your project, we don't necessarily decide you need approval from them. We just want to make you aware of them so that the applicant is aware. Some applicants are less aware than others. Okay, so they are on that list. As far as our subdivision regulations, there's no line, like our application currently lists Department of Transportation and groundwater districts as that we need approvals or no objections from them. We need something from the water provider and the sewer provider if they're going to use utilities. saying that they have the capacity to provide them with water or sewer. So those are part of the application to make a complete application to the county. There's no requirement in our subdivision regulations as they stand today that that a letter of no objection or any sort of letter from the ESD is required to make the application.
I recently had a specific example of this in Huntsville in this development called the Woods of Elkins Lake. The city has an 80-foot cul-de-sac width. Well, I think it's the International Fire Code or something calls for it to be 100 feet if you have X number of residences on a road or structures as you pointed out. And the city of Huntsville said no, and after meeting with the fire marshal in the city, we can do it this way. You add into the structures a residential fire suppression system. But the city decided that our 80-foot is okay and adequate for our development code versus the 100-foot that I don't know where it came from, International Building Code. So the city took the same position that he's taking, is that we regulate development and 80-foot is adequate. That's a real example. I don't know what your requirement is. You have 100-foot or 80-foot cul-de-sacs in the county.
But and I'll reiterate, and I want Jacob to hear me say it again. I absolutely encourage you to consult with them. It's a good idea. They're experienced in that area of safety, and it's a good thing to take it into consideration. In the end, it's not their decision, it's yours.
Do we require Blue Bond to give a letter of no objection, or we just ask for it?
So typically what we get from Blue Bonnet, because of the changes to our code and the state law, is Blue Bonnet has agreed that when we get one of the well water reports, that they'll do a review and a letter to court.
But we don't have it in.
Blue Bonnet's actually listed.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
That's the distinction there, Judge, is that there are laws requiring
Right.
the county to consult with TCEQ and Blue Bond and this and that. I have not found a law that says you have to consult with an ESD fire marshal. So it's a voluntary thing. It's a good thing. It's not a mandatory thing. You're right there.
I just think we make sure they talk to ESDs, and if the ESD has a problem, they send a letter of objection to us. We'll consider it time at the plats and then go from there.
I don't have a problem with that at all.
From my office's standpoint, unless I have something in here that requires something as part of the application, I have no way to make anyone talk to the ESD at all.
Right.
So they, I can mention that there is an ESD. I always try to mention that there's volunteer fire departments and ESDs and encourage coordination with them, especially when they have private entrances or gated entrances, that it'd be good to go talk to them prior to getting too deep in the project. I do that all the time, but I don't require it. It's not part of the required application. So for me to say this application's incomplete, you haven't consulted with the ESD, I cannot do that.
And y'all all meet with all the developers before they come here anyways, right?
Most of the time, yeah.
Well, if you don't, they get told to come back.
Right.
So, I mean, that's another point y'all can make then, and.
Yeah.
So.
Can I ask one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah. If we could just require, put it in the regulations, so on and so forth, to have a letter, whether it's objection or no objection. I don't disagree with Quentin's, and I guess he must not have not heard this the last time I've said it a dozen times. I don't disagree that y'all can say, hey, I want a 20-foot road, not an 80-foot road. But that puts the liability off of the ESD that the county has varied from the fire code. And that's fine. You have the authority to do that. I do not disagree with that. Y'all can approve a plat putting houses on top of one another, but therefore it's on y'all and not the ESD. So what the letter would do is just say, hey, we object to this. And then y'all take it and say, well, this is a legitimate objection, or no, we don't agree with the fire marshal. We're going to let you do this anyway. So you can have that authority at that point, on the stuff that, you know, that y'all regulate under the subdivision regulations.
That's not what we're talking about anyways.
All right. Good place to leave it.
Yeah. What else we got on workshop?
Anything else?
I keep stressing the, part with the city. It's very important.
About that.
I think everybody knows where I stand on that.
I'll 100% agree with that. Being as
And I
I'm
don't mind
on
sitting on the
developers
committee,
hat
but I
back
don't
on.
think they're gonna let me.
Well, we might want to play hardball. I'm gonna put you in there for.
I have beat this dead horse a long
I
time.
can keep dealing with Ronnie or deal with somebody else.
I'm
Okay.
I'm good with going over there.
I don't have.
I think Ronnie and Jake would be good with
Yeah.
that.
I don't have anything in executive, any public comments. Questions from media, commissioners court. All right, meeting adjourned at 11:50.